Hello, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to the 7th annual LTEN Excellence Awards. It's going to be a great evening, and we are so honored to have each of you join us tonight as we pause and recognize those among us who are deserving of accolades and recognition for their work in life sciences and their work with LTEN. And this evening, we're all together, right? We're here virtually in 2021, celebrating 50 years of LTEN. It's amazing to think this organization has been around for 50 years and that it began as NSPST around a small table in Philadelphia so many years ago. But before we jump into tonight, let's take a moment and think about 1971 for a moment. Of our 2,300 members, many of us were not even born in 1971. Companies like FedEx, Southwest, Disney, and a little trading module called NASDAQ were just getting their starts. So think about how far they've come in those 50 years. They're embedded in our lives, and they certainly are what we would identify as exemplary in their field. Well, what do those organizations have in common? What got them from that beginning humble place to where they are today? And I would argue it's the people that make up what they do, how they do it, and really keep the energy alive in the organization. LTEN is no different. Our people make us what we are. It's the work that we do, it's the patients we serve, and it's the organizations that put faith in us to build capabilities and disciplines that have kept LTEN at the forefront of developing life sciences, medical devices, and many other parts of our industry over the past 50 years. As we think about the recognition piece, and I want to pause for a moment because there were a lot of people that brought this to life tonight. We have folks who served as judges. We have the awards committee. We have the field training committee. We have the board, the advisory council, our preferred industry partners, and not of the least is our staff at LTEN that does amazing work behind the scenes to bring events just like this to life. It is incredible the work that they do to make sure that we're able to meet our members and to share successes together as we go through. Now, tonight couldn't happen, and you couldn't hear Shawn in just a moment, who's our keynote speaker this evening, without a lot of people who've done a lot of work to help us bring this to life. Our premier award sponsors, Axiom, CMR Institute, Illuminate, and Red Nucleus, thank you so much for investing in us in LTEN to bring tonight alive for all of us. Our keynote sponsors, Illuminate, Open Health, and Red Nucleus. You guys are going to love Shawn. I've had the pleasure to engage Shawn a couple of times, and the energy he's going to bring to our awards ceremony tonight is going to leave all of us wanting to spend more time with him and have him continue to be parts of what LTEN does in a future state. So I know and appreciate those who've made that happen. Lastly, all of us have enjoyed the ability to have a food gift card provided to us this evening. For CMR Institute, for Next Level and Proficient Learning, thank you all so much for being a part of that and allowing us to come together and be able to enjoy a meal while we're celebrating time together. There are a couple of fun events this evening. First, as we go through tonight, please don't pause in celebrating and recognizing the names you see on the screen. Chat that information into the box here as we go through the evening. Share it on social media, share it on LinkedIn. Recognize your peers, not just the winners, those who've done such great work that they're able to be a part of what we are doing day in and day out. And then to be recognized tonight in a group of their peers, focusing and working together to make our industry better. And then lastly, we have a very special virtual photo booth sponsored by Red Nucleus that allows you to go and take a picture to again share on your social media, in your LinkedIn accounts, etc. So before we jump in, I want to once again pause and recognize those who worked so hard and those who've been recognized tonight as leading our way at LTEN for the work we do, the organizations we're a part of, and the patients that we serve day in and day out. It's going to be a great evening, and it gives me great pleasure now to turn the evening over to Shawn Kanungo, who is going to lead us through this evening with this inspirational way of pulling us together, celebrating successes, and building in a keynote message along the way. Those who don't know Shawn has spent 12 years at Deloitte working on building leaders and investing in others. Today, he is a partner of Queen and Rook, where they work to advise and give counsel to organizations and executives to help them get better in an ever-evolving world that we live in. So without further ado, sit back, enjoy the evening, enjoy the recognition that we're all a part of. Thanks so much for your support of LTEN. And Shawn, I pass it to you.
Guys, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go on. I'm not going to go on. I'm not going to go on. I told you guys I'm not going to go on. I told you guys that no red Skittles. No red Skittles. What is this? What is this? Whose idea was this?
We're actually live.
We're live?
Yeah, we're live.
Hey guys, how's it going? Listen, just a minor disagreement in the back, but listen, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. My name is Shawn Kanungo. I'm really excited to be here for you guys, the 7th annual LTEN Excellence Awards. We're gonna have a lot of fun today. Follow me. We are broadcasting to you live from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. In this empty theater, the 750-person empty theater. And part of the reason why we're here today is because, I don't know, we can be. I don't know when this place will be full again, but I'm so honored to be hosting this award celebration with you. I'm going to be doing a keynote. I'm also going to be doing hosting our award ceremony, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. And before I get into all the awards, I want to thank everyone for all the contributions over the last year and celebrate you guys. We're gonna have a lot of fun today, and I need your help during this presentation. I need your help. I need you guys to engage in the chat and be interactive. Because I just want us to have a lot of fun today. Listen, this is the first time that I'm wearing a bow tie in years. I dressed up for you, so let's have a lot of fun. I want to introduce two individuals on my team. They're going to be helping me out today. First, Neve. Neve, you want to say hello to the camera?
Hi.
And we also have Maria as well. Maria, you want to say hi to the camera?
Hi, everyone.
So they're going to be taking a look at the chat, and I want you guys to, chat amongst each other during the chat. I'm also going to be asking you guys some questions as well as we talk about my favorite topic on disruption and innovation. And the first question that I want to ask you guys, is, this question. What does disruption mean to you? What does disruption mean to you? I've spent my entire career in this space trying to figure this out. And to be honest with you, I don't even know what it means still. It's always evolving. But you see the QR code right below me? If the QR code doesn't work, there's also a code that you can put into menti.com. You can use that, and there's a poll there where we want you to sort of see where the answers fall. And if you want, you can elaborate in your responses in the chat. And you can talk amongst each other in the chat around what disruption means to you. Can't wait to see everyone's answers. To me, disruption, it's funny. It always starts out as a joke. Disruption always starts out as a joke. I mean, if we look at every single disruptive technology, everyone thinks it's a joke. I mean, you think about the earliest technology. I'm thinking about like the printing press. The fact that we would start this printing press when the entire world was illiterate, like most of the world was illiterate, it sounds like a joke. Flight, for example, planes, the fact that we would put people on wood and metal and then fly them around the world, it sounds like a joke. The internet, the fact that we would connect everybody online, and the biggest companies today are internet companies. It sounds like a joke. I mean, even if you look at some of the most disruptive companies today, I mean, even TikTok. I mean, if somebody would explain TikTok to you, the fact that all these kids would be doing these dances, it would sound cringy. Airbnb, this idea that you invite people into your house, it sounds like a company for serial killers. Bitcoin, you're seeing like NFTs and Bitcoin today, the fact that you can buy imaginary goods for imaginary money, it sounds absurd. And this is the whole thing when it comes to disruption. Disruption always starts out as a joke until the joke is on us. And that's why it's important not to disregard the disruptive thinkers, the folks that are irrational, or some of those ideas that are buried in the basement, because you never know where disruption comes from. It can come from anywhere. So I want to know from you, what does disruption mean to you? And I'm going to come to Neve first around the poll. Neve, what is people saying in the poll? What disruption means to them?
Yeah, well, it looks like opportunity was trying to sneak up from behind, but changing the game won the poll by quite a bit.
Okay, changing the game, we got that. Now, Maria, do we have some people in the chat sort of expanding on that definition on disruption?
Yes, we have amazing answers on here. A lot of people are saying it's breaking the wheel and reinventing. My favorite one is doing something different for the better and preparing for the future that we can't imagine.
I love those. Okay, great. So listen, I see a lot of positivity, probably because everyone's going to get an award. Not everyone, don't get me twisted. Not everyone's going to get an award today, but I see the positivity, which is great. To me, ultimately, disruption is really about opportunity. Pre-pandemic, we saw an extraordinary amount of change because of accelerating technologies. And now because of the pandemic, it's just accelerating everything. And, throughout history, and you can look throughout history, this is what I've done throughout my career, is every time there is terror or warfare or chaos or change, there's great opportunity that comes from it. And, to me, like, it's funny, I spent my entire career working with some of the best companies in North America and around the globe, thinking that there was a playbook of how to go about strategy and innovation. And today, for example, to be honest with you, we live in a world of anomalies, algorithms, and abundance. And if you're looking for a playbook when it comes to innovation, it actually doesn't exist. The only thing that's important is for us to be nimble and flexible and experimental. And that's why I'm so inspired by some of the nominees today around innovation, acceleration, the partnerships amongst industries, because this is what really innovation is all about. This ability to partner with others, to be nimble, to come up with new ways of doing things. So I just been inspired. I can't wait to get to some of the nominees and some of the winners later. But this is going to be an agenda for the first part of the presentation, which is really, if we want to reimagine the title of this presentation about reimagining learning in a world of disruption. And I believe in order to reimagine learning, we have to do three things. Number one is we have to take a look at what is the mindset required to reimagine learning in a world of disruption. Number two, how are learner expectations shifting and accelerating now because of the pandemic? And number three, I believe that we need an entirely new way of looking at innovation. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to have a lot of fun asking, going through these topics. And I want to ask you a question. As life science trainers, educators, I want to ask you, I'm curious, what will the role of life science trainers and educators look like post-pandemic? What will your role look like post-pandemic? I don't know about you, like in Canada, you guys are, for many of you guys, that if you guys are in the States, you're pretty much done this. In Canada, we're about there. We got like a couple of weeks left. This idea, by the way, use the QR code right below me. We have a poll up there. Want to see what people have to say. And if you want to expand on your comments, go in the chat as well, and you can do that. This question is actually near and dear to my heart, because when I talk to CEOs and leaders pre-pandemic, in the private boardrooms and now on Zoom, they actually privately tell me the same thing, which is our talent does not have the skills needed for the future. That our talent doesn't have the skills needed for the future. And I always argue that yes, they do. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. But the other reason why this is near and dear to my heart is because this is what my wife and I are talking about all the time. This is what my wife and I are talking about all the time. We got two kids. We got a 4-year-old named Maya, and we got a 2-year-old named Dion. And this is what my wife are talking about all the time. By the way, I don't know what my son, he doesn't like to wear a shirt. I don't know why. He's just running around this house, no shirt. But this is what we're talking about. What are they going to do in the future? What skills will be relevant for them in the future? And so I want to really come back to you, and I want to know what you had to say. So Niamh, I want to come to you first. The poll question: what will the role of the life science trainer look like post-pandemic? What do people have to say?
Yeah, so the majority of people are actually saying the role will be more of a change agent for development. And a couple people behind are saying more strategic as well.
Strategic. Okay. What came in last in the poll?
In last was replaced by AI.
Okay. No
votes.
No one's gonna be replaced by AI. Okay. Maria, what about in the chat? We have some ideas in the chat.
Yes, we've got one comment saying that trainers must be more strategic in their decisions, as well as be more flexible and open-minded.
Okay, great. So listen, again, positive responses. We're learning from each other. I'm going to be dropping some bombs today, but there might be like 1 or 2 nuggets in the chat where you're like, okay, this is where the game-changing ideas are coming from. To me, this discussion is actually really difficult because of a number of converging concepts. Number one is that, sometimes I get worried about what industries will be relevant in the future, what roles will be relevant in the future. But then I have to remind myself that the jobs of the future have not been created yet. I know this because if I look at the last 5 to 10 years, these jobs didn't get created 5-10 years ago. I'm talking about blockchain developers and bot managers and equity and diversity inclusion officers and podcast clip makers and telehealth physicians. These things didn't get created even 5-10 years ago, but now they have. So that's number one. That's one thing, which is we can't predict what's going to happen in the future. Number two is that you have the acceleration of technology. You have things like artificial intelligence, automation, threatening, people's jobs. In fact, the hype right now when it comes to jobs is this one question, which is, will robots take my job? Will robots take my job? And by the way, if you want to know if a robot will take your job, there's a really great site. It's called willrobotstakemyjob.com. I recommend everybody to go on it. Not now, don't go on it now. We're having fun. But I actually went on last night to see how some people in this chat would do in a world of automation. The first thing I did was I put in trainers to see how you guys would do. Training and development specialist, 1.4%, totally safe, congratulations. Then I put in sales, sales like technical sales or sales leaders, 25% start worrying. And then I put in a really random job like accounting, I think I put in, and then it was 94% and completely doomed. I'm sorry if you're an accountant watching this. No, I'm joking. By the way, accountants will be a great job. It'll be a great job. It will just, evolve, right? Because of technology. And that's a beautiful thing. Things like automation, they're going to help us, elevate our jobs. They're going to remove the things that we don't want to do so we can just double down on things that actually matter, like our employees and our end sort of learners, really, at the end of the day. So I talked about the fact that we can't predict the future. I talked about the idea of automation. The other thing that's really impacting the workplace is really we're entering into what I call the era of the individual. Today, the individual has way more power than ever before. In fact, the power is shifting from institutions to individuals. This is why you're seeing things like, NFTs and the creator economy and Bitcoin and remote work and solopreneurs. Today we have all the knowledge, media, talent now in our pockets. We're becoming more empowered than ever before. And this is actually changing, how people approach work. People are becoming a lot more powerful than ever before. So that's the third thing. And I think the fourth thing that's really impacting sort of roles of the future, and it's going to impact training, is this idea of liquid work. Work is becoming a lot more liquid because, number one, you have more and more people being open to remote work. And number two, more and more of our work is becoming digital. So as the work becomes more liquid, what we actually need is more liquid super teams. Let me describe what this idea of a liquid super team is. This was actually coined by a great writer. His name is Packy McCormick. He coined this idea of a liquid super team, which is this idea of basically the Avengers for talent. If you have a particular project, you bring in super talent in for that particular project. Once it's done, they dissipate. As work becomes more liquid, this is becoming easier to do. You can pull in talent globally, pull them together for a particular project, and then the project sort of dissipates, and the people sort of go on to their merry way. It's very similar to sort of the consulting model, where that's why I sort of grew up my career. We brought great talent together, very similar to like the NBA super teams. You have like Kevin Durant and like Kyrie Irving, James Harden playing for the Brooklyn Nets, coming together as a super team, winning a championship, dissipating. This idea of super teams is going to be liquid super teams is going to be a lot more prevalent as we move through the future. And so this is all changing our work environment. And I think it's going to change our roles as trainers post-pandemic too. And I think the most important skill set, the most important mindset when it comes to a trainer in this sort of post-pandemic world is this ability to have a deep generalist mindset, with a specialist focus. An individual with a deep generalist mindset is somebody who can pair different skill sets together, somebody who can bounce and understand a different domains, whether it's finance or media or crypto or economics or politics, having a sort of a polymathic view of the world. And this type of skill set is going to be more important in the future as we, move into this more and more digital world. And here's some ways that you could be a better deep generalist. Number one is actually embracing dangerous ideas, embracing disruptive ideas, embracing the irrational, and having the courage to do that. In my experience working in disruption and innovation, typically when you bring people together, the mediocre ideas are left at the table and the disruptive ideas are always sort of on the floor because they're too scary to go off and try. Number two is building a learning engine. So I believe that learning is a muscle that you continuously build, this ability to curate knowledge from all sorts of different places and bring them together in order to educate others or around your particular tasks. And I think ultimately, number three, it's how do we learn from the outside? How do we learn from others? How do we have a global mindset around work? Today, more and more knowledge is becoming commoditized. Talent is ubiquitous. You can grab talent from everywhere. And we all know that we learn faster when we learn from the outside. So these are some of the ways that you can become a deep generalist. But I want to know from you, put it in the chat. I want to know some other ways that you can be a deep generalist, Put it in the chat. I want to know what people have to say. So that's the first piece around reimagining learning. I think it requires a mindset shift of how we look at the world. Number two is really around learner expectations, and I'm going to get to that. But Maria, I'm going to come back to you. Do we have some people in the chat saying some stuff about how to be a deep generalist? Maybe one or two comments.
Yes, we have someone that said starting with curiosity and expanding your network that function you wouldn't normally reach out to.
I love that. That's great. Love that. Keep chatting. I love it. I'm going to ask you another question here, which is, as trainers, as educators, expectations have shifted wildly during this pandemic. So I want to know from you, you can use the QR code below, how have learner expectations changed over the last 18 months? I think the pandemic has been 18 years, but we'll keep 18 months there. How have learner expectations changed over the last 18 months? I'll put in the poll. You can expand on your answer in the chat. I want to know what everybody has to say. To me, finally, we have moved into this online and offline world. Every single product or service that you can think of now has an online and offline component. I'm talking about healthcare, retail, dating. Everything is offline and online. And of course, learner expectations have probably changed. I'm curious to see what you're saying, but people are expecting things to be faster, more accessible, on demand, faster, more delightful. I'm just predicting what you're going to say, but I'm going to come to Neve to start in the poll. What did people say in the poll?
Yeah, so coming in first was access, and then second and third are kind of fighting it out between speed and video. Okay,
great. I'm seeing now, before I get to you, Maria, I'm seeing Richard Sampson says in the chat, now. What are other people saying, Maria, in the chat?
Yeah, we got someone that said COVID actually has only accelerated the changes that were already coming anyway.
Okay. Great, fantastic. You know what? It has definitely done all of those things and more. And to me, the dangerous part about this entire thing, especially when it comes to learner expectations, is that of course people, to Richard's point, people want things now, and people want things more digital and faster and on demand. My fear is this, especially when it comes to learning. It's that when everything is digital and ubiquitous and easy and simple and seamless, the value of what you deliver as a trainer actually becomes commoditized. It actually becomes less valuable. It actually becomes more fleeting when things become super digital. The value of what you deliver actually becomes less significant. And that's just because people make it feel like it's more transactional, which it shouldn't be. In fact, training should be, it should weigh heavily on folks because you want them to change their mindset, their perspectives, and their skills ultimately at the end of the day. And so when everything is digital and ubiquitous, I think there's a couple ways of sort of differentiating experience. I'll give you one example. This is this idea of costly signaling. This is one way of creating a differentiated experience when everything is digital. Costly signaling is this term that we use in sort of behavioral economics and innovation, and it makes actually no sense for human beings, but I'm going to describe it to you. It's this idea that by putting in perceived effort, it can actually result in greater meaning and significance with your end learners. Putting in effort can actually result in greater meaning and significance with your end learners. What does that mean? It actually plays on our rational brain. This is why, for example, a handwritten note with the same content as a text message, you know that the handwritten note is going to land a little bit deeper with your end learner. This is why, for example, I know it makes no sense, but wine in a heavier bottle, for some reason, tastes better than the same wine in a lighter bottle. I mean, this is why we're doing this award celebration and keynote in this theater. This piano is real. Like Neve and Maria, they're real. We got a production crew. We're in this theater. I mean, thank you. I don't need to be doing this. This makes actually zero sense. Why are we here? It makes no sense. But it's funny because the fact that you're seeing this, it looks like we put a lot of effort in, and we did. We've been here for hours sitting up, and it looks like it. And for some reason, the message that I'm giving to you virtually here is going to land a little bit deeper than if I was just at home in my sweatpants, turning up my laptop, and I'm just there. For some reason, the message is going to land a little bit more, and it signifies that I care. And by the way, I do care, but that's what it really signifies. And to me, when everything is fast and digital and ubiquitous and seamless and people want things on demand and now, as Richard said, I believe in investing in slow things. I'm not saying invest in dial-up. I'm saying invest in things that are meaningful, magical, and ultimately memorable. This is what I really believe in. And so my ask to you as trainers is how do we make things much more meaningful and memorable, whether it's in our content or it's the way that we deliver our messages to our end learners? How can we make it more meaningful, magical, and memorable? And I know part of that is going to be about actually coming together, like seeing people actually in person. I saw a lot of takes at the beginning of this pandemic that, we're going to work from home everywhere, that it's going to be, everyone's going to be remote. Everybody's going to be working in their bunkers forever. We've always had this narrative, always. I tweeted this out a couple of weeks ago. And this is actually in a New York Times article in 1876. They said there was an editorial in the New York Times stating that the telephone would be a method of broadcasting classical music, and it would destroy concert halls just like this. And in that article, the author writes, what if every town in America got a phone and no one ever had to show up to celebrations in person again? I mean, that's just crazy. Of course it's crazy. Of course everybody would show up because, the intimacy, the trust, that's so important in not only building relationships, but also sort of driving sort of our outcomes. And this is why I believe that, I'm not a futurist. I can't predict what the future is going to be. As in somebody who, lives and breathes in innovation, helping innovation teams, globally. I know innovation is hard enough. Like it's like the hardest thing to do within organizations. It requires time, energy, collisions, and momentum. And unfortunately, that's very difficult to do in a work from home world. And I'm sure everyone's feeling it now. Like we had the initial boost of momentum, and now, it's difficult to carry the momentum while everyone's in their bunkers, right? It's interesting. A number of weeks ago, I spoke with a really great author. You might know him. His name is Simon Sinek. And I asked him about the impact of working from home and innovation. And this is exactly what he said. Hey, Simon, there's lots of organizations that are building their work from home strategies. And they are, some organizations are saying, you can work from home anytime, anywhere. Don't ever come back to the office. What do you think the implications are for trust and for innovation?
Well, just like it's hard to, you can meet someone online, but at some point you're going to have to meet them in real life if you want to spend the rest of your life with them, if you want to actually build deep, meaningful relationship. And work is the same. It's hard to onboard a new person to the team and have them build deep, meaningful trust with the team without knowing anybody. We can like them, we can get along with them, we can start to establish trust, we can see them as reliable, which is not the same as trust. But at the end of the day, human contact really matters. And for people who say that business travel is over and the office is closed, it's unrealistic. Because at the end of the day, human beings, which we've all learned from being quarantined, crave the contact with other human beings. And you just wait. We're all having Zoom meetings and not going on any business trips. And once the world opens up, the first person to get on a plane and go meet with a potential client and gets the business because they took the energy and time to go meet them and shake their hand, well, guess what? Everybody's going to be going again.
I love that. See, this idea that the first people that will get on the planes and shake somebody's hand, you know, will get that sale. Listen, I believe him. I think this idea of trust is built in when we're colliding with folks in the hallways. It's when we're seeing people eye to eye. So I can't wait for us to get back, in person again. And, the other piece when it comes to learner expectations, I think what's shifting is not only because of, the shift to digital. I think what we've realized during the pandemic is that the model of training is going to fundamentally change. And I'm going to show you something, which is the difference between an industrial era model of training and what I call the exponential era of training. And I believe that we are in the exponential era. An industrial era model of training is a linear way of thinking. And an exponential model is how do we create more micro content, more modularized content. An industrial age training is about instructor dependent, solo instructor, while exponential is how do we leverage talent? Everyone in the world, instructors can be a free agent. How do we leverage talent all over the world to help us learn, specialize, be experts in specialized tasks? And it's also be software supported. In an industrial age, it's this idea of one to many, while in the exponential age, it's gonna be a lot more about one to one and even around gamifications. In that industrial model, we did have the webinar, the traditional webinar, but I think we're going to move to how do we make content more engaging? I think we're going to see the TikTokification of content, the small, bite-sized, compelling clips. And fundamentally, I think the end result will less focus on sort of that test model. What is the end result versus how do we deliver continuous engagement? How do we continuously engage and have that lifelong learning aspect to our end learners? I think that's what's really going to change. And I think probably what has changed the most when it comes to learner expectations is the fact that you might know this already, but today, the most precious asset in the world is attention. The most precious asset in the world is attention. And the individuals and the organizations that get this will be the ones that will win in the future. The reality is that you are actually in the business of attention. Like you compete, unfortunately, against TikTok and Netflix and Mr. Beast and Masterclass and beyond. You're actually competing for people's attention. And so in this world of attention, I think we almost have to play the same game as those that are garnering attention. And that's why I believe that the future of training is going to sit at the intersection of media and education. It's funny, like a number of years ago, I was helping this organization around what the future of training would look like. And we went through this, we created this menu, this recipe of all what could happen in the future: virtual reality, augmented reality, modularized training, micro content, etc. One of the action items out of it was getting every trainer to learn how to cut and edit video. That was like a basic piece. How do we cut and edit video? I actually ran like a video editing class. And it was funny because at the time of execution, when we were supposed to implement, they shied away from it. They said it wasn't part of their core competency, and they didn't want to do it because they were afraid to change. And I just believe the world is changing because of attention. And because you're playing in the world of attention, you have to actually understand how to use some of these assets or getting people to help you with this. So that was just a fascinating insight. And what's incredible is that you have all these kids walking around and they already have super skill video editing skills sort of in their pocket, and they're already sort of growing up with this ability. And so I think we need to play at the same pace that they're playing. So learner expectations changing. Now let's get to my favorite topic, which is actually approaching innovation in new ways. And I think this is the last step in terms of reimagining learning in a world of disruption. And I want to ask you this question, because most of us actually work for large organizations. And I want to ask you this question. What is, in your mind, the biggest obstacle to innovation in large organizations? What is the biggest obstacle to innovation in large organizations? I want to know what everybody has to say. And listen, I'm getting really passionate about this. I'm talking about this. I mean, I need to sit down for a second. You know, in my experience working with some of the best organizations in the world, my epiphany is this, is that the best organizations in the world are the most vulnerable to disruption. Let me repeat. The best organizations, the most established organizations are the most vulnerable to disruption. By the way, the best organizations actually have the best team. They have the best talent. They're going to, you know, all the conferences and learning about all the trends. Yet they're still the most vulnerable to disruption. Why is this? The reason is because the best organizations get really nostalgic about their existing business models and their processes, and it becomes very difficult to pivot and move when the environment changes around them. I say they get trapped with their own tools and their own expertise. Just like I told you about those trainers that I was working with, they couldn't see the future because they were so trapped and mired in their existing expertise, and it was too difficult to pivot even when the environment changed around them. And guess what? The environment just changed. The bubble has bursted. There's a new world order. And the individuals that get this, I believe, will fundamentally reimagine what learning looks like. But I want to come back to you guys. Neve, I'm going to start with you. What is the biggest obstacle in large organizations? The poll, what did the poll say? Hopefully no one screwed up the results, but what are people saying in the poll?
Yeah, so 34 people actually said politics, turf wars, and no alignment.
Okay.
And then following that, 25 people said lack of vision and strategy.
Okay, I can see that, definitely. Politics, turf wars, lack of alignment. Maria, anybody in the chat saying some stuff about what is the biggest obstacle to innovation in large organizations?
Yeah, we've got a couple of common answers here, starting with process and changing it, and having that mindset of if it's not broken, don't fix it. And we have the other one of focusing on the risk too much and not the reward.
I love that. So we're gonna try to see if we can de-risk innovation a little bit when it comes to training. Now, I think the number one thing that people get wrong when it comes to innovation is that everyone thinks about innovation as a new technology or new product innovation. In fact, I think this is the dumbest place to start. In fact, the biggest mistake when it comes to disruptive innovation is that people think that it's about technological breakthroughs, but in fact, it's actually more around how do you, it always actually requires a new business model instead of a technological breakthrough. And I think that's what people get wrong about disruption. So when it comes to innovation, I think we should think more broadly about what innovation is all about. It's not just product and technology. It could be about your revenue model. It could be about channels, your workforce, your processes, which is sort of what I call the left side of the brain, the rational, the logical elements of innovation. And you can innovate in some of these areas. And there's also the right side of the brain. These are where you want to be more imaginative and creative and create more magic. And this could be around customer experience, or around your content, your how you deliver content, your collaborations, working with creators, and ultimately sort of building a community around what you're doing. So this is, teaching people that innovation can come from anywhere. And this is how beautiful innovation can be. This is why I love innovation so much. This is why I get up every single day and think about innovation, is that once you allow innovation to be permissionless across an organization, it can actually create this sort of flywheel effect. So if you allow innovation to be at the center of what you do, and you allow people to innovate around your revenue, or around your channels, or around your talent, or around your customer experience, or your brand, or your content, once you start innovating in one area, what I have seen countless times is that you'll get other people to innovate in that area. You might also inspire other people across other verticals to start innovating. And then innovation just becomes this contagious effect. It actually creates a flywheel effect where more and more people in the organization see other people trying new ways of doing things. And it creates this flywheel effect. It also, what it does, it actually increases your chance of getting lucky. You connect with more people within the organization that you haven't connected with before or outside of your organization. And it actually creates also a moat as well. It becomes way more difficult to disrupt you when you start to create this flywheel effect. And I believe your job as trainers is to actually embed sort of innovation capabilities and help embed innovation capabilities across your organization. Allowing people with a new mindset, a new way of doing things will actually help people be more innovative. So I would say that you actually are the gateway drug to creating a culture of innovation within the organization. That's how powerful your job really is. And you know, it's funny, I think, Neve, they said that the most difficult, the most highly rated thing when it comes to innovation within a large organization was politics, turf war. Was that it?
Yeah, politics, turf wars, and no alignment.
Love it. Well, let me give you a way of how you can go about innovating by by still playing in a large organization and navigating that politics and turf wars. This is an idea that I've coined called denting the outside. It's a new type of disruption strategy where what you want to do is create innovations outside of your core, small experiments with very small teams and very small sprints, and eventually sort of make that the new core. Now, the reason why you want to do that is because in most organizations, if you try to do something innovative, the immune system of the organization, it will just reject it. And so what you want to do is create innovations outside of your organization and sort of bring these innovations in, whether it's around new processes or new talent or new customer experiences, content, and bringing these things in. This is a way of actually de-risking innovation. In fact, if you see every single disruptive company that have fundamentally disrupted themselves, they've incorporated this process by denting the outside. If you look at, for example, Adobe, Adobe about a decade ago, their business model was like you go to like Future Shop or Best Buy and you would, get their products, their Photoshop products there. And they saw Adobe's 10 years ago, they saw the future of cloud and SaaS. They said, how do we play in this space? They started to experiment with their membership models, the subscription models. And over the last 10 years, they've really fueled the creative revolution because they've turned their business into a cloud and SaaS business. And now this has become their new core. The same thing with, for example, Disney. Back in the day, their core business was parks and consumer experiences. And now over the last number of years, they've experimented with Disney Plus and whatnot. And now that's become their new core. So it's this idea of creating innovations on the side of what you do and bringing these inside. So when it comes to training, it's like, how do we deliver new ways of coming up with content with different platforms and experimenting with those? And then potentially that might be your new core, new way of delivering things. So this is the idea of denting the outside. And here's the whole thing is that denting the outside starts with, transformation actually starts when you do the possible and then you do the impossible. And that's what the denting the outside framework is really all about. And so I believe so much in this idea of the trainer being the innovator, because in my opinion, and I know I'm biased, but today in this era, if you are not part of the innovation discussion, then you are not part of the discussion. And so I truly believe that you can be the gateway to creating a culture of innovation within your organization, and you've done it. And I've been so inspired by some of the nominees that we're going to get to in about 2 minutes here. And I'm just going to leave you with this. To me, this pandemic has really been interesting, because we're almost done it, right? And to me, there's going to be a lot of think pieces talking about what this was all about. To me, the pandemic was a time machine. And everyone was forced to come to the station of this time machine. Some people came with a really heavy bags of old ideas, PowerPoints of bureaucracy and hierarchy and old ways of doing things. And some people came to the station with a light bag full of optimism and wonder and new ways of doing things. I'm not a futurist. I can't predict what the future is going to be. If I was a futurist, I would be in New Zealand right now, sipping a margarita. Instead of I'm here in an empty theater in bow tie. But I just believe that the future will reward those that will come into this new world with a very light bag. And I hope you did. It requires us to be nimble, flexible, and experimental.